If you wouldn't mind, you have, Mike's going to probably do an introduction, but these two sheets, there's two sheets that I sent and had them print out. Go ahead, Mike, sorry. But just go ahead and pull them out, because I'll be using them a little bit.
Okay, this is Fred. He's going to talk about training plans. We usually do a pitter-patter back and forth. Yeah, we're tired of it. This is Fred. He's going to talk about training plans. But I will say this. Fred knows a lot about rowing. The first time I ever met Fred, he was just on his way to winning a gold at the World Championships. And when you're in the role I was as the beltman for the team, you can step back and really see a different perspective of the athletes. They're very focused and so you get a real good flavor of what type of person that was. And I'll say this, Fred impressed me as one of the nicest persons. In the heat of competition, you know, with Spracklin and pushing and shoving and getting guys to get the most that they could, Fred was just a really down-to-earth nice guy. How was that? Did I do all right?
You're going to make me cry.
There we go. All right, Fred Honebein.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks for having me back. This is the 4th year that I've come here, and always enjoy when Mike emails me in mid-December begging me to come down again. So when we were tossing around ideas, you know, I think I sent an email down to Mike and said, hey, you know, how about something to do with training and stuff? And he's like, yeah, it sounds great. And so then I didn't really think about it because of the holidays and New Year's and all that stuff. And then after the first year, I went to the website and was looking around, and that title popped up. And I emailed Mike immediately, like, what the heck is going on with this title? And so he's like, oh, I love it. Let's go with it. And then, of course, so it's beautiful. But anyway, I'm not here to tell you if your training program stinks, okay? What I'm here to do is to share experiences that I've had, finds that I've made in my number of years of being a coach and then being on the national team and now working with the Olympic team and the national team, and to let you know that I've made probably every mistake a coach can make with a training program, okay? And I'll just do a quick story real quick. My first job coaching was at the University of California, Berkeley. I was coaching freshman women. I had just come off the Olympic team, and I had no idea what I was doing. And so, as Mike alluded to, I was coached by Mike Spracklin, who was arguably one of the toughest, most insane coaches out there. And I started using everything that he had taught me as an elite athlete, being able to train 3 to 4 times a day. And these poor women were absolutely just annihilated. I had a bench or a picnic table outside my office, and literally every 3 days I'd get a phone call. I was like, Fred, because we didn't have email or internet or texting and stuff. And they went, Fred, I need to talk to you about something. So, okay, I'll just come to my office, I'll be there. No, I'd prefer someplace else. So we would meet at the picnic table. And after a while, I renamed the picnic table the crying bench, because they would come down and they would just be sobbing. It's so hard, it's so difficult, it's all that stuff. And I'm just like, hey, you guys told me you wanted to win. This is how I know how to do it. The problem with it was I didn't have the experience and I didn't have the information. And by the end of the year, I had decimated my team. I had a very small team to begin with. I barely had enough to field an 8 at the end of the year. They ended up doing well, mostly because they just were ready. They had had enough of the year and they just wanted to get through it and stuff. But it was a great group, and I still look back on that as being one of the biggest mistakes I made. So moving forward, I just wanted to give you guys this, okay? These are all training programs that I collected just by talking to people, coming to presentations like this, the US Rowing Convention, all that stuff. And it has like the Nielsen training program, which is based on lactic acid, okay? And how to train with lactic acid. And you can see the 2 boats that they did. The one on the right is the boat that beat us at the Olympics in '96. Probably arguably one of the best boats ever, best 8s ever. The next one was from 2000. I was down Mike Tady's group. This is a snapshot of what the Olympic team was doing in 2000 in the lead up to the Olympics. The next one is Igor Grinko, and Pat Brown had talked about the Igor Grinko thing. I have no idea. This has, you know, this isn't rate versus intensity or lactic acid or heart rate. It was just sheer volume and a lot of crazy stuff, as you can see. The next one is, this one, the bespoke training program is the Danish training program. And this is by far the best training program that I've seen that you could really augment into what you guys do on a day-to-day basis. And I challenge you to try and find it online, trying to look for it online. Because there's a lot of training programs, and you can't just hit rowing training programs and stuff. Like, you got to really dig. And that's how I found these, just taking an afternoon, sometimes a weekend, and just sort of digging around and then finding little avenues and stuff off of Google and everything to find these things. And if you can find this one, like in all of its entirety, do it. It's one of the best, okay? The next one was one of mine. It was sort of my self-promotion type of thing. But this was one of the, after I had obtained a lot of knowledge and, I don't want to say knowledge, but a lot of experience and obtaining a lot of training programs, I designed this one, okay? And the thing that I like about it the most is that there was a lot of variety. There was cycling, there was lifting, there was tank sessions, there were stadiums, there was weights, and just how the whole thing played out. It was a really good, a good program, and the payback that we got in this 6 weeks of just good training, athletes performed really well, okay? So, and then the last two are just, there's this one, which is just a number of workouts, okay? All right, so it's yours. But what I'm going to tell you to do right now is bury this until the summertime, okay? You don't want to start messing with your training program too much right now. And the problem with too much information is that you'll start to sort of spin and you'll start to be like, well, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And trust me, I did it. I was doing workouts with my team at one point in time where it was just intensity after intensity for a week. And by 3 weeks in, these guys were just waxed because I just felt that if a lot was good, a lot more was going to be better, okay? So the first thing you got to do is make sure that you keep your approach simple. And the next 3 slides are going to show you how to keep it simple, okay? So I like to call it the Sesame Street approach because it doesn't have to be that complicated. And like what Pat Brown said earlier, like with you guys having jobs and stuff like that, it's so important. Like, you don't want to just show up at the boathouse and be going, well, what am I going to do today? What am I going to do today? Because that kind of approach, your athletes are going to see it, okay? And it's going to be tough on you because you're going to come up and you're like, well, what am I going to be doing today? How's this all going to work? And then kid comes up to you, oh, I'm sick. Well, that changes the lineups, or this happens, or there's a car crash, or any number of those things that we've all dealt with at one time or another, okay? So the first thing you got to do when you're building it is just make sure you're setting your goals, okay? And with the goals is like what you want to do on the water. So your technique, what kind of speed, what kind of things you want to implement with your team, okay? The next thing would be on the erg, like, do you want to compare your team's erg scores from year to year? Or do you just want to keep it, just based upon the group that you have at this point in time? If you're doing weights, are you going to be focusing on power or fitness, or technique or injury prevention? Because there's a lot of different formulas that you can utilize, okay? The next thing would be on, when you're building it, is limitations and sharing. What are your limitations? Do you only have the ergs for 20 minutes a day, and how much water time you're going to get? All that stuff plays into how you're going to build your program. Because if you show up expecting to do something on the water, and then all of a sudden it's blown up, and you can't get out, then you're sort of spinning. When I worked at the University of Washington, I had 3 workouts every day. I had my priority, I had my secondary, and then I had my, I won't even say it, oh crap, workout, okay? Because it would just be too bad. And it was good for me because you get down there and you've got all this stuff going on, and then you're just like, and then the wind's blowing up, but what am I going to do? And so at least in this case, I could just execute. Okay, we're not going to do this, I'm going to do that. Oh, well, I can't do that now, so I'm going to go with plan C, okay? And then obviously time. How many hours and minutes do you have in a day? Like, a lot of these programs that I showed you, these are professional athletes, 6 hours a day. That's why I'm telling you not to use this, okay? It's a good tool so you can grab workouts from it and stuff, but most of you have like 90 minutes, maybe 2.5 hours at the most, okay? It's very important to really time manage your program so that when they're there, boom, they're doing this, they're doing that, you're executing. And having that ability to have a goal and a structure is really invaluable. And then the last thing is your training philosophy. Can you convey this philosophy to your athletes? Do they understand it? I've made the mistake, like where I was just out there and like, oh, we're going to do this and all that kind of stuff. And the athletes get confused, okay? Like a lot of these, they all have different components. You know, obviously this one is lactic acid. So if you have $20,000 to get a lactic acid machine, have at it. But you better make sure that you're going to be able to explain it to your athletes what the lactic acid is, how it works. I have no idea. I couldn't even go into this. I don't understand this stuff. I'm what you would call a dog type athlete. There's the rabbit, I'm going to go run and get it as fast as I can. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't care about my lactic acid, I didn't care about my heart rate, I didn't care about anything. I just wanted to get there as fast as I could, okay? So, in building your program, and a lot of this starts with, I share an office with Chris Korzanowski, who does a lot of our coaching education. And on the US Rowing website, you can really go in there and you can, you can email him. He'll send you, if you have questions about things or if you want to try and get him to come down and watch practice or all that kind of stuff. He has a lot of experience. And a lot of this stuff, like, it's great when I'm sharing an office with him because the phone will ring, he'll pick it up, he'll start speaking Polish, and I'll be like, whoa, what's that? And then he gets off the phone and, oh, I got this program and all this kind of stuff. But he did a talk similar to what I'm doing. When I told him I was doing this, he gave me a number of slides, and the next 3 slides are the ones that he gave me to sort of share with you, and it makes perfect sense. So what you're going to do, or what you would want to do, is start with 3 major workouts, okay? The first one being on a Monday, and these, you don't have to stick to the days. It's just when it fits your schedule. You know, doing AT pieces, which are long, 2 to 3 times 15 minutes. On Wednesday, you're doing transportation, so 1500s or 5 minutes. On Saturday, you're doing short interval, 1-minute pieces, 30 seconds on, all that kind of stuff. And it's all, you don't have to write notes. It's all in here, okay? And then on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you're just doing steady state, technique, lots of cross-training, weights, whatever you want to do, whatever fits into your little schedule. It's simple. It's this simple. I'm getting to that next. Excellent question. So in essence, you start off in the fall, and everybody's getting ready for head season. That's your preparation period. So you're doing a lot of base work, you know, low rates, all that kind of stuff. By the time you get to January, the yellow basically denotes the priority workouts, okay? So, for example, in January, your cadence, the cadence that you're striving for is rate 28, okay? Nothing's really going to exceed rate 28. That's your base work, okay? So with that, if you go across the top there, it says short interval number of workouts a week. So in January, it says 28, and then there's a 0. So you know there's no transportation work in the month of January, okay? You go down, you're going to have 1 day a week of long interval work, 1 day a week of anaerobic threshold, which is a key workout, and then 2 utilization, which is hard steady state, any of those workouts there, and then down on the bottom, regular steady state, 2 workouts, okay? Move to February. Oh my God, now you have transportation. So you're doing 1 transportation workout with the base rate being 28. That's the focus of your race rate, okay? So all you're doing is you're following this prescribed little program. There's sample workouts on the side, and then you're slowly building the rates up. So by May, your transportation work is at rate 34, which race cadence would be about 34, 35 and a half, okay? The only thing I will caution you on, though, with that is if your crew cannot row 32 or 30, don't jump to 34 or the next rate. Don't do it. I mean, that's where in a training program you have to have a little bit of flexibility, okay? And as you're building it along, you know, be flexible with it because there are going to be a lot of things. This is just a template. And again, like what Pat said earlier, like coming down to the boathouse and just knowing that 90%, that this is done. And then you can focus on the other things like technique, lineups, seat racing, all that kind of stuff. It is so invaluable. I wish I had this knowledge 15 years ago when I started coaching. I just didn't. I was just sort of like, I'd show up and be like, all right, let's go row around the lake, or whatever, So this is another portion of the, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this based upon time, but this is another portion of the bespoke training program, which is the Danish program. Great understanding of like, how long the preparation period is. On the side over there, it says how many weeks you should go. This is based upon a 12-month training cycle, okay? Simple, super, super simple. And the best thing about the Danish program is that it was built off of guys, elite athletes that had to work and had a lot of other responsibilities, and they only had a certain amount of time to train. And in the article, it states, black and white, that these guys were more fit in March when the ice thawed than they were by the time they got to the Olympics. And the reason being was because everything they did was on land. Okay. The next one is in your page 2. For fall and winter, this is Korzanowski put this all together as well. Just a sample, just for you to try, just to see what it's like. Okay, or to implement what you want to in this. This is just, it's simple, 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 basic. You have 4 workouts, and then you have time where you can play ultimate frisbee or do anything else that you want to do with your team. Okay? Overtraining. Mike had talked to me at one point about overtraining, and I always sort of poo-pooed overtraining because, and this is the best. This is from Wikipedia. I pulled it up on Wikipedia. Overtraining is a physical, behavioral, and emotional condition that occurs when the volume and intensity of the individual's exercise exceeds their recovery capacity. I don't think you can do enough to overtrain your athletes with the amount of time you have physically. That's just my belief. But what I do believe is that this is the behavioral and emotional component of overtraining is dead on, because especially with the age of your athletes and where they are in their life, they've got social commitments, they've got homework, they're going on recruiting trips, they're stressed out because their parents are stressed out because they're not going to get into Brown or Harvard or whatever. I mean, these are all components that you have to be aware of as a coach as far as what is overtraining, because more often than not, they're not going to be getting enough sleep. And that's where the overtraining is going to come in. And how are you going to manage that? Or how are you going to balance that? And I just put it, and this is another part of the article, is I just put in about overtraining, the symptoms and what you should be looking for. Super important. You can burn your athletes out super fast with what they can do. And sometimes less is more. And taking a day. I used to do it. I would just watch and monitor my athletes, and then you'd see them all coming in like this, all right, let's just do 40 minutes. That's it. Get out of here. And it was like pennies from heaven. They were like, what? It's amazing. But you have to be aware of it, because the athletes that you deal with, they do have a lot of outside pressures going on. And I know my time is 20 seconds. There's some additional stuff that's in the packet that I sent out. I was going to talk about weightlifting and all that kind of stuff. I got really excited when I started thinking about this. This is the Polish junior men's strength program. Okay? This is a circuit weight that the French, again, another Korzanowski thing, okay? It's a little broken up. I'll send Mike a different copy if you want to get it. This has all of the different weight components if you have access to that. The last thing, I found this, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go over. Go. I found this is the BUDS training program. I found this about 5 years ago. Best program ever for building strength. I am not joking. I've done this up to about week 4 here. And when you start doing 200 to 300 push-ups, holy cow. It's brutal. But this is one of the best programs for land training. If you don't have access to any weight equipment, Have your athletes do this and just throw in jumpies. Oh, they'll get their ass kicked. Like, I mean, physically, not on the water. They'll get super strong. And it's, I mean, the push-ups and the core stuff that they do, they build a lot of the core muscle stuff. Maybe I'll do this next year. But this is a great, great training program. Okay. Any questions?
3 minutes, let them rip.
Yes.
PowerPoint online somewhere? A lot of the pages that were printed out aren't fully complete, so is there somewhere we can get that?
Yeah, I don't have a problem. Just send it out to them.
Yeah, we'll get it to you. We'll get it up. Yeah, just let me figure that out on Monday. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I know you said you were going to talk about it, but what is your opinion on weights versus not weights?
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad you said my opinion. My opinion is if you have the ability to coach your athletes effectively about weight training and have the time to train them properly, I say it's a good thing. I mean, a lot of the international countries do that. They do a lot of lifting. You can find stuff like on the Croatian, like YouTube. There's some Croatian lifting stuff, and you see these guys, they're lifting a lot of weight. Okay, but they have to be taught properly. I mean, the things that you have to consider when you're doing a weight program. That's why I love this one for high school athletes. This one is awesome because, like, I mean, with juniors, you're dealing with the structural development. You're dealing with time, like how much time do they have to row, and then are you going to throw them in the weight room for an hour and a half? And then are you going to be able to instruct them properly? Or do you trust the people that are going to, you know, and again, like all this is from experience. I'll show you how I used to do squats when I was a freshman in college because I didn't know. 325 pounds, ripped my back apart, done. Because I mean, it was like the coach said, I mean, and the coach is a great guy, I love the man. But it was like, yeah, go lift weights. And I mean, and then I was next to this guy, Sean Carver, and he's like doing 325, and I'm like, I'm doing that. Well, not for 3 weeks I wasn't. So, anything else? Yeah.
How often throughout your coaching career would you have to pull out the oh crap workout for the day? When plan A and B would fail for whatever reason?
The oh crap workout. I mean, it just depends. Like, it's based upon what you have. I mean, like out on the West Coast, you don't have to deal with ice. What you have to deal with is wind. And so, like in Seattle, for example, like there were days where the wind would come whipping across. We couldn't even get the boats out. And then, as the freshman men's coach, and I was sort of the new guy, like I didn't have the Bob was the priority guy, so the varsity men got to go wherever they wanted. Jan was right after on his heels doing the same thing. Eleanor had time over me, so like I was sort of waiting around. So what are you guys doing? Where are you going to go? And all this kind of stuff. And then it's like, well, we're going to do this, and Eleanor will go, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going that way. You know, so like that's, but it's all about communication. You know, and I think nowadays you have so much more, you know, with texting and all that stuff. You have so much more ability to text, like, hey, what are you doing today? Where are you going to go? So you can go in a different direction and stuff.
Okay, Fred.
I know, I got to go.
Thank you, Fred. That was great.
Thank you, everybody.